Welcome to the Make Ready with the Experts podcast. I'm your host, Fernando Coelho. We're here at Panteo Studios bringing you the very best from in and around the firearms industry, covering topics like guns, gear, firearms training, self-defense, and so much more. Everything from industry insights about the latest gear and training techniques to hunting, survival, and empty hands. But this isn't just about the guns, folks. This is about the stories. The military, law enforcement, and civilian stories of heroics protecting our country, fellow citizens, friends, and neighbors.
Panteo.
MakeReady.tv is the official website of Panteo Productions and features over 5,000 segments from world-famous instructors. With new video titles added each month, MakeReady.tv is widely known as the Netflix of firearms training. However, we really do go beyond that. We have survival series, we have empty hands, we have edged weapons, we cover armorer skills, we've done documentaries, even medical, and hunting. With your subscription, you will have access to an extensive library of videos. To be quite honest, we got a lot. Be sure to visit MakeReady.tv and subscribe today to stream our exclusive content to any device, anywhere, anytime. This is content that just may save your life or the life of someone you love. I had the opportunity to sit down with Larry Vickers, longtime friend, and talk about various topics that are relevant from today and stuff that you may not know about from Larry's background. We talked about COVID-19. Everyone's talking about COVID-19 nowadays. New gun owners. Somalia, circa 1993, as most of you would know, Black Hawk Down. Various books that Larry has produced, and something else that you may not know about, the incident in Panama. Now, with Panama, we're talking about 6 minutes to freedom. The incident where Kurt Muse was rescued from a prison in Panama, and Larry Vickers was part of that assault. So let's get into it. It's me and Larry at the Panteo Range facility. So Larry, here we are at the range.
Great day.
Filming again.
Yes, filming again. Beautiful day, man.
This is awesome. I did not expect it to be this good.
Yes.
But once again, here we are. And when is it? It's during the whole COVID-19 thing. So
exactly.
A lot of people stuck at home.
Yeah.
Cabin fever.
Yeah, big time.
Everyone's watching videos now.
Mm-hmm.
YouTube is exploding. Netflix is exploding.
Yeah.
Hulu. How has it been? How's the whole COVID thing been impacting you?
Well, the cabin fever has been pretty severe. I'm not going to lie. Normally, during this COVID-19 time frame, I'd have been out of the house, every couple of weeks to do classes. I've had to cancel now 3 classes. Boy, it's really given me a new appreciation on being able to travel and interface with other gun guys and get to the range and shoot and teach classes. It's made me appreciate that. Mm-hmm. Not that I never did. I always appreciated it, but it just enhanced my appreciation of it, highlighted it, refocused my appreciation of it. So when I'm back on the road teaching classes and going out and interfacing with shooters and stuff, I'm going to be happy. I'm ecstatic to come here today and film. I was just a happy camper driving down here to do it. Straight up.
It's been a weird thing for us because normally our production crew, we have guys from Atlanta, we have guys from Florida, we have guys here in South Carolina, from North Carolina, hell, we have guys from Phoenix, and across the entire country, it went from everyone's still working to TV shows on hiatus, everyone's home, no crew are working, entire groups of guys are out of work, and that's never happened.
Yeah, no, it never happened. My son asked me, he son's 17, and he asked me, is this all right? I go, oh no, this has never happened before.
Yeah.
Not just in our lifetime, it's never happened before, period. This is all new territory.
Yeah, absolutely.
Never happened before.
What's interesting too is you have the celebrities out there right now they're showing us their gyms at home and their big screen TVs and their ice cream and what they're doing. And it's like, really?
Yeah.
Really? That's all you can do right now?
Yeah.
I mean, but from us and the industry side, you're right. You hit it spot on. It's a break.
Oh boy.
It's a good time between the trade shows, between the running and gunning to classes and doing stuff, to stop, breathe, reevaluate, and decide, are we still really on the right path? Are we tracking the way we should be? Should we do a course correction? I mean, that usually just doesn't happen.
Well, and we're all running around doing stuff. Like you guys run around filming. I'm running around doing classes and doing stuff for my YouTube channel and all that. And we'd all agree, hey, a 2-week break, that's awesome. Bless you there. A 2-week break is awesome. We're way past the 2-week break now.
Yeah.
We're way past that. So it's okay. We checked the block for the 2-week break. We need to, we want to get back to work.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And then now it's every state is different. So some states, I granted, New York got hammered.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. But other states did not have that same problem. So other states just don't have that population density.
Well, exactly. It's like my buddy Hackathorn said, he lives in Idaho now. Lived in Ohio for forever, and he lives in Idaho now. And he said, social distancing out here is a way of life. Yeah. And a lot, and you could even say in most of the country, the lion's share of the country, social distancing is a way of life. So in order to somehow think that you have to completely shut everything down to zero, I think we're all kind of know now, okay, we did that. It's time to move on.
Absolutely.
Just tell people, wash your hands, don't shake each other's hand, wash your hands, stay, apart from each other, and just let's move on. Use common sense.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then on the flip side, you have the areas, dense population, like Florida, Miami Beach, Daytona. And right in the middle of the peak of the COVID thing, everyone's on the beaches.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, at what point do we have to dictate, hey, use your common sense, folks, we're still in peak craziness. People are getting it. We don't know where it's going to go. Now we should be in the decline now.
Yeah,
as everyone's
in theory,
saying.
right? We flattened the curve.
Yeah,
so to speak.
But how many knuckleheads had to be out there on the beach?
Yeah, that was when you saw that, like right during spring break. You're like, come on, guys.
Yeah,
come on. I understand spring break, but you're young. It's going to be one of countless spring breaks. Let's keep it in perspective and do the right thing.
Yep.
I agree.
And not for the conspiracy theory here, but you were at SHOT Show. I was at SHOT. My God, 26 years now doing SHOT. And we always get the SHOT Show crud. Well, 50-50 SHOT. We're going to leave SHOT Show with a SHOT Show crud. We're going to be sick for a week.
Sure.
Okay. This year, I was hearing from different parts of the industry, people were coming home sick with something they didn't have before. Doctors are going in going, hey, you have an upper respiratory infection. Haven't seen this before. Take this and rest. So people were resting for a week and a half, finally getting over and just thinking, again, what is it? It's SHOT Show crud. Makes you wonder.
Yeah, it does make you wonder.
I mean, SHOT was what? Mid-January.
Yeah, right the 22nd, 18th, 22nd, 3/4 of the way through January. Yeah.
How many people come to SHOT and where do they come?
Right, exactly.
All over the world.
Yep.
So, for all we know, some dude was looking at bat in the Wuhan.
It makes you wonder if that wasn't. Hindsight's 20/20 on that now. Yeah, that's a good point. You're right. It was weird because a bunch of people got SHOT Show crud. I didn't. Many years I do. It's a given. It's a flip of the coin whether you're going to get it or not.
Absolutely.
I didn't this year, knock on wood, but a lot of people did.
Yeah. I was lucky. I didn't get it. But then again, other people that I was with, I was right there with them at the show, and they got it.
You know what's going to be interesting that you bring that up now? It'll be interesting. One thing to me is going to be interesting in moving forward is the handshaking routine.
Yes.
You got to figure that's going to be greatly reduced.
Absolutely.
It's not that it's going to go away.
No.
Because it's kind of you know somebody you like, shake their hand,
Yeah. But
Dave Harrington, you know what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And if you don't shake his hand, he's going to look at you like, dude.
I mean, you know the deal.
Yeah, but, we've known each other a long time. It's easy to forget how long we've been in this industry. I mean, Jesus. you put your nose to the grindstone, and all of a sudden, 5 years, 10 years
Just go by like a blink of an eye.
We're all getting gray. We're all getting older. There was a time where you and I were the new guys in the industry, and everyone had the years in.
Oh, yeah.
Now, dare I say it, we're the old guys.
Old guys in the industry. A lot of the older guys are gone.
Yeah.
Hackathorn's still here and whatnot, but a lot of the ones are gone.
Well, Bill Wilson. I still remember the day where Bill Wilson wasn't the old guy.
Right.
It was just one of the guys.
One of the guys.
You know, same thing with Hackathorn.
Now they're very much the old guys.
God, years ago, I remember being at a SHOT Show and Hackathorn is sacked on my bed because he came over with Yoichi, and he just crashes on the bed, and we're here talking in the hotel room, and I feel like we were all younger, and all of a sudden here we are now.
I know.
It's changed, but you know what also is something. As we're in the industry longer, people don't know the backgrounds. They may know you as LAV, but they don't know your background.
Right.
They know you got the sling, you got your YouTube channel, you consult with manufacturers, but why are you here today and your background, and they don't know. You know, they don't get nowadays everyone is into, if they could read it on their phone in one paragraph or less, that's all they're going to know about you.
Yeah, and a short paragraph.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing that I always wanted to talk to you about, and I remember when the book first came out, Kurt Muse, about the situation in Panama. What was the name of that book?
6 Minutes to Freedom.
That was it. I remember when it first came out. A lot of people don't even remember that. Don't even remember the whole. Give me a little bit of rundown now, on Panama.
Well, Noriega was in charge. The guy was basically a dictator, also a drug dealer. I mean, in a nutshell, that's what it is. He was dealing drugs on the side. He's a dictator and whatnot. And he had the United States through Reagan and then George Bush Sr., he was on the radar screen. And they were zeroed in on that guy. Things started to go sideways. There was some altercations with some of their basically militia and whatnot with American servicemen that were down there, because we still had guys stationed down there because of the Panama Canal. And then what we started doing was we started getting ready for, hey, if things go sideways, we're going to basically roll in and take over the country. And in the process of all this, in the process of basically anti-Noriega activities, a guy who was doing stuff with the CIA got scarfed up, got rolled up.
That was
Kurt Muse.
My fellow citizens, last night I ordered U.S. military forces to Panama. No president takes such action lightly. This morning, I want to tell you what I did and why I did it. For nearly 2 years, the United States, the nations of Latin America and the Caribbean have worked together to resolve the crisis in Panama. The goals of the United States have been to safeguard the lives of Americans, to defend democracy in Panama, to combat drug trafficking, and to protect the integrity of the Panama Canal Treaty. Many attempts have been made to resolve this crisis through diplomacy and negotiations. All were rejected by the dictator of Panama, General Manuel Noriega.
Kurt Muse was a CIA operative and had been arrested in 1989 for setting up covert anti-Noriega radio transmissions in Panama. In the early hours of December 20, 1989, the United States began operations against Manuel Noriega and the Panamanian Defense Forces in Operation Just Cause. A couple hours before that, Operation Acid Gambit began, the mission to rescue Kurt Muse. This is an excerpt from an interview with Kurt Muse held at the Conservative Political Action Conference in Washington, D.C.
General Noriega was a Panamanian military colonel who, through a series of coups, came to power in Panama City. He was a drug runner. He was a money launderer. He was a murderer. He was a thief, and a lot of other adjectives. You know, there comes a time and at least in my life, where enough's enough. And in my particular case, that happened one day when I was taking my 12-year-old son Eric, to school. We came to a Panamanian Army roadblock, and the soldiers reached in the car to check us out, to search the car, and to get our identity papers. And I saw the look on my 12-year-old son's face. It was a look of absolute sheer terror. I thought to myself, I don't want to live here anymore. I'm not a rich person. I don't have the wherewithal to leave the country. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have him leave the country. And I started a pro-democracy underground radio station to overthrow the dictator and restore democracy.
You read the book, he basically alludes to the fact that he did agency stuff later on, and that all remains up in the air. But bottom line was, when he was scarfed up, some of his local assets rolled over on him, and he got scarfed up and he got put in Modelo prison, which was basically their primary prison in Panama City, and literally just a stone's throw, like a couple blocks over from essentially the Panamanian Pentagon.
Oh, okay.
Okay. There was just a couple blocks over. So he was in the premier prison, and he was in a special cell for that area. He was kind of in a VIP cell, if you will, right, for being in a third world prison. He held for 9 months, if memory serves me correct. And George Bush Sr. had been the director of the CIA before he was president. Mm-hmm. Vice president and president and whatnot. Well, he obviously had an affinity for that organization. They put in plans that that guy was going to be rescued. He was going to be broken out of the prison prior to any invasion going on, because he'd had threats against him that if there was any kind of an invasion or any kind of an attempted takeover, we were going to kill you right off the bat. We've been told that. And the Panamanians would actually allow a U.S. Army doctor to go in there every week for visits, and for health and welfare. Mm-hmm. And he would check on Kurt Muse. Well, he was also providing intel on where Kurt Muse was at in the prison. What the prison layout was like, what the doors looked like. Just giving us intelligence. Right. So there started to be a plan formulated to rescue him. It was handed off to Delta. And it was a mission that kind of passed around Delta a little bit. And I remember hearing scuttlebutt about it. And then when the Panama invasion went down, it just so happened the A Squadron had the mission. I was in A Squadron, and I was an A2 troop, and we had the mission to go in and get him. And the thing was, it was going to be, I want to say, a half hour, 45 minutes prior to the invasion kicking off. Well, the timeline slipped, and it ended up being about 15 minutes before. So we're going to roll in, and then when things go loud, we're already on the prison. That's the theory.
The plan to rescue Muse before the actual invasion of Panama was for a very important reason. The U.S. had been told by Panamanian officials that any attempt to invade Panama would result in the immediate execution of Muse. The solution? Grab Muse first, invade the country second.
We ended up taking little birds in, very small birds, and they'd taken equipment out of them and stuff like that, so they could get his max personnel. Each guy had to weigh himself, the amount of ammo you're carrying, body armor, helmet. Everything had to be weighed. It was super, super exact, because it was a fairly short flight from the Air Force Base, Howard Air Force Base, where we were at, but weight was so critical. Because we needed to be able to go in and get out and take Muse out with us.
Right.
And they would guesstimate his weight. It was a real, two of the 4 little birds were involved in the operation, and 2 of them had 2 pilots, 2 of them had 1 pilot. So there was, not every bird had 2 pilots.
Now, was that the 160th that flew you in?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep, sure was. 160th. And it was interesting, because later on, for whatever reason, we got this false sense that, you could carry more people than they could. And, you don't understand. We took in 5 and 6 dudes. That was a special deal. We stripped out equipment. Normally we can't carry this many guys. And it was interesting, just kind of lessons learned as time went on. Everybody goes, you can just haul 6 guys wherever you go. No. That You know, it was like taking out equipment and all kinds of other stuff that didn't need to be in there in order to reduce the weight. So the theory was go in with that. Now, another lesson learned is we should have thought about a different exfil. We also exfilled with the little birds, but the little birds work best in stealth. When it's dark, the little birds are dark. You can't really see them. You can hear them, but you can't really see them. But once you're on top of a building, which is basically a giant bullseye, now having them come in to exfil was probably not the best plan.
Okay.
So a couple of them got shot, a couple of them got hit, and then there was some issues with guys and personnel. And so one of them, the one that Kurt Muse had, was in, ended up having to kind of do I wouldn't say crash landing, but kind of had to do a forced landing. Okay, adjacent to the prison. And then they started to kind of get things sorted out and started going down the road after we rescued him, and they started to take off, and then they got shot, and then the bird crashed. Fortunately, we had a ground evacuation contingency, and we had guys in APCs, armored personnel carriers and whatnot, that got directed into their location. So the contingency, and they were there in case we could not come out via helicopter.
Okay.
They were there in case we had to fast rope over the side and go out that way. Well, as it turned out, they rolled in, and now, fortunately, they're there to evacuate the wounded guys, Delta guys.
Sure.
Because a couple guys would have died. They'd have bled to death. But we had medics on, with the APCs and whatnot. We were able to get Kurt Muse out and everything, other than some dudes being wounded.
Right.
And, everything came out okay.
I was interrogated nonstop, 4 days, 3 nights and 4 days, and the book details all the horrors that entails. This is not your Abu Ghraib prison. This is a third world prison with horrible people running the prison system. I survived that, and I was put into a prison called Modelo Prison for 9 months. And those 9 months I was in solitary confinement. I could see sunlight, but I only saw the sun 4 times in 9 months.
As the chopper lifted off, it took serious ground fire. An operator was hit in the chest and toppled out of the helicopter 20 to 30 feet to the ground. Another operator grabbed a hold of his gear to hold on to him and was pulled out as well. The little bird was peppered with fire and crashed on its right side. The skid pinned Delta operator James Souther's ankle. All 4 operators were wounded, but Muse and the pilots escaped without injury. But now, let's back up a bit. It's a prison.
Mm-hmm.
It's a high security prison. Fortified facility. Granted, Delta guys. But still, how did you go from exfil to finding Kurt, and what did you
we had an idea where he was at.
Okay.
And he was in the cell. He was 2 floors down. And we came in through the roof, and we knew there was a roof entrance. We just didn't really know how strong the door was. And we just couldn't, other than getting flybys and pictures. We saw it was a barred door, but we just didn't know. Well, it was a cheesy third world, prison door. It was nothing. So we went in with a charge that would rock your world, P for plenty, and blew that thing. Yeah, I mean, it was no issues getting through that door.
Right.
Like I said, we went P for plenty. We made sure we had enough charge to get through the door.
Okay.
And then worked our way down to the floor he was in, and then went in and located him. And one thing they knew, his guard was a catty corner across the hall from him. And so they went into that room and eliminated him, and then they went to his room and got him out. Okay. And we exfilled the same way. And one thing I'll never forget. One of the things that was acted as a diversion at the same time was the AC-130 gunship started hammering. When the invasion actually kicked off, the AC-130 gunship started hammering the commandancy over here. I mean, and then set cars on fire, and it kind of set a shanty town on fire. And it was like something, out of a end of the world apocalypse type movie. And that was all going on over here. And we're getting ready to exfil. And once it was quiet and we were waiting on the helicopters to come back, you could hear the prisoners screaming. Because you got to figure, the prisoners are in there. They hear this gunfire. They hear this explosion. They hear this other gunfire from the commandancy getting hammered by the AC-130 gunship. They know there's fire. I mean, these people are petrified.
Right.
So they figure, just think about it. They figure this place is going to catch on fire, and we're going to burn to death inside this, inside this cage. Think about that.
Yeah, no, that's true.
And I tell you, when you heard somebody scream that's in fear of their life, like legitimately in fear of their life, you never forget it. It's nothing like you see on TV or movies or anything like that. It's when somebody is screaming and they are legitimately convinced they are going to die. It's haunting. And I'll never forget that, because there was a pause. We called for exfil. We were on the stairs. Muse was there, and he was trying to melt into the stairs. He was like, holy cow. Yeah. I'm sure he was overwhelmed.
Yeah.
But we're waiting, and I remember hearing those dudes scream, and I'll never forget it. It was like, whoa.
Wow.
And everything going in. And we did all kinds of live fire rehearsals and everything, which were excellent. But I remember we came in, and I remember looking over, and there was something on fire, and I thought, "Oh man, this is real now. This is the real deal." Because during none of the rehearsals did we have fire. This whatever it was, a building or a car or something was on fire. Man, we got fire now. This is real.
Now it's real.
I'm like, wait a minute. And prior to that, we'd had live explosions, live ammo. We had all that stuff, but we didn't have any fire. So that, in my mind, made it real. I've never forgot. But yeah, the screaming, I'll never forget it.
Wow.
Those dudes screaming because they were convinced they were going to die.
And they ended up staying there.
Yep. And then it was interesting. We went later, and they'd let everybody out.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
We went later. Now, a few days.
Okay.
We got Muse out, and things had evolved and whatnot. And then Noriega was in the Vatican embassy, surrounded. And he eventually gave up. But during that process, we kind of went back to the prison to kind of look, check it out. And it was empty. It was completely empty. All the prisoners were gone. I don't know where they went. If somebody just came in and opened the doors and let them go.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So now when you guys were down on the ground, so now the mission's changed. You're not getting out on a bird.
I was on the second bird, and I got out of there. The first bird went down, and we went back to Howard Air Force Base. One of the pilots got hit. So one of the pilots of one of the birds had two pilots, fortunately, got hit and had to be carried away. He survived, but to get treated. But only three helicopters landed, and I remember my team sergeant came up, the team leader said, "Hey, we're gonna have to go back in because the other bird went down." And I went, "Oh man!" Yeah. We rescued this guy. We got out. We won the Super Bowl, and we just found out we fumbled on the goal line. You know what I mean?
Right.
Now, as it turns out, everything certain, but I went.
Yeah.
I just couldn't believe it. But bird one was the only one that went down. It happened to be the one with Kurt Muse on it.
Yeah.
And then, unfortunately, though, we had the contingency plan. Then we got word, hey, he's coming back. They've got him. Everybody's okay. And
he must have been one happy dude.
oh yeah.
I mean, oh man.
Yeah. He calls every year. He calls everybody who's on the mission.
Nice.
And just every anniversary, December 20th of every year.
And
he calls and reaches out to him.
Then that book came out.
Worst case, if he can't get you on the phone, he sends you an email. But he calls every year.
Nice. No, you didn't forget.
Nope.
Not forget.
Oh no.
He knows his ass would probably still be there.
Well, he always says, I happily pay my taxes every year. I don't even. I write the check and with a smile on my face every year.
Think he's still doing these radio broadcasts?
Yeah.
Essentially, I was going to be executed. And U.S. Army Delta Force operators swooped into prison, and an incredible rescue mission saved me right before I was going to be executed. Unfortunately, our helicopter was shot down, so it was another saga. So a couple more chapters of us on the ground having been shot down and having the bad guys sort of trying to get us. We survived that as well. And then I was reunited with my family on December 20th, 1989, which you can well imagine was the best Christmas ever for the Muse family. And to this day, just so your viewing audience realizes this, that all the folks that participated in that mission, many of them were wounded. In fact, the majority of them were wounded. They all returned to duty. and all of them retired honorably from service in this Army's elite unit. And I'm very, very close to them now. They're like brothers from a different mother, and we keep in touch.
Yeah.
What's cool now, of course, now that's been, oh my God, it was in '89, so it's been 30 years.
Yeah.
But, his kids are grown now, and they've got grandkids, so it's awesome. The whole thing is
They
great.
need to do a movie about that.
Yeah, they do. They've talked about it at times. I've talked to a guy who was going to do a movie kind of on the whole Just Cause thing, and Kurt Muse Rescue was going to be obviously a key piece of it. I don't know where that's at. I'm surprised by now they haven't had a movie of it.
Yeah. I mean, well, look, you had Panama, Noriega, Kurt Muse. What happened after that? We had Somalia.
Well, and you had Desert Storm, of course. Desert Storm.
Well, that was they've covered that in films as well, and it was brief by standards of other battles.
Yes.
It was more of a rollover.
Yeah, it was it was a rollover. Plus, it was conventional military. Talking about armor. Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, Delta was there, but it really wasn't as much for you guys to do.
We were hunting scuds. We weren't even going to be there at all because Schwarzkopf was not a fan of special ops. But then we went there, and we were behind lines to help keep the Iraqis from launching scuds into Israel.
Got it.
So that's what we were doing.
All right.
Us and the British SAS.
So yeah, it being as short as it was, that was more of a practice for you guys than anything.
Different type of mission.
Yeah. But then you had Somalia, 1993. October 3, October 3-4 ended up, it was really supposed to be just a few minutes, and 40 minutes in October 3. Now that was not your squadron. Your
C squadron.
That was C squadron.
Yeah, I was an A squadron.
So now when did you go in?
We went over after October 3rd. I remember I was in the range shooting with, I think, Jerry Barnhart.
Very cool.
We were shooting with Jerry Barnhart, and then I remember it was like a Saturday or something, or Sunday. I came in, I was shooting, and there was all kinds of cars at the compound. Like, what's going on? And they came out and they said, hey, some things went sideways in Somalia and whatnot. And we ended up telling Jerry, hey, man, we got to cut you loose. I'll talk to you later. And we went in and got briefed, and we got spooled up, and we went over, I want to say, a couple of days later.
Okay.
Got there the 6th, I believe.
That was a hard lesson learned.
Yeah, it was. And then, to me, the ultimate lesson out of that is you have to have a national command authority that is committed to the mission and committed to backing your troops, which we did not have.
Right.
The Clinton administration, the Secretary of Defense, we didn't have what we have now. I mean, people can say what they want about Donald Trump, but I mean, I happen to like the guy, and there is no doubt he backs the military 100%. You don't have any question in your mind.
Absolutely.
At all, zero, zip. Well, we didn't have that in Somalia.
Right.
We had a guy in the White House, and we had a Secretary of Defense who you didn't have the commitment to back the guys on the ground like you do now. Well, that really, when you boil it down, in my mind, that is ultimately what sunk that whole thing.
Right. I can see that. Well, where were the pitfalls? Yes, they went in, they secured the assets they were supposed to grab. They got them. They were the right ones were there at the point where they thought they'd be. Okay, first bird goes down.
Well, and they had this mindset. Even they took a page out of Vietnam, where everything was limited engagement.
Yes,
it wasn't. You're either going to go over and find this guy, or you're not. You're going in with a handful of guys to do this and do that.
Right.
No, you either go in with overwhelming force, which the United States military is known for, or you don't go in at all. You don't revisit Vietnam
right.
with this limited engagement thing or this limited participation.
And in the film, even though the film was more of a Hollywood glorified version of the Mark Bowden book, which was the book was supposed to be pretty spot on for what happened.
Everybody, I've talked to guys in the C Squadron, and they said that book is as good as any after-action report.
Right. In fact,
the book was superbly done.
They say the book really ended up being the after-action
Yes, the
report.
book was outstanding. Because
what wasn't it on they all got back, and then there was an incoming mortar that ended up killing.
Yeah, I killed a good friend of mine, Matt Ryerson.
And then.
Yeah, I talked to him about 30 minutes before that happened.
And then more recently, my God, just a few years ago, his son.
Yeah.
That was during the get together for.
Yeah, that was bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's yeah. I felt bad for the son. I also really felt bad for his wife. I mean, Jesus. But getting back to back then, you had the mission going well. Bird goes down. Okay. Well, where is the support now for our troops?
Yeah.
None.
Right.
I mean, it's like, oh wait,
it's all, and you got to go to a foreign military. You got to get APCs. It was a train wreck.
Yeah. It's like, hey, UN forces, can you help us?
That was a joke. The whole thing was just sad. There were
since
so many layers of bad ideas.
Yeah.
And I remember somebody came over. It might have been Downing. Said, your plan should not require and rest on the valor of your men. Your plan should be able to something that can be implemented and put into place that doesn't require guys to do above and beyond,
right?
To get the job done.
Now, could it also be said that was such a true test of our soldiers that the Delta guys, they did what they were set out to do. The Rangers, a lot of the Rangers, the younger Rangers, maybe were not prepared.
It was warfare they were not trained in, and they weren't. You know what I mean?
Sure.
That whole urban warfare, Delta had done a lot of it. And of course, Delta had tons of lessons learned out of it. Needless to say, but the Rangers had not been trained in that stuff. That was something that they had not really had the correct training in. The urban warfare piece of that.
Right.
Yeah, correct. Yep.
That had to be
that was a big lesson learned, and hence why you've got the Shugart Gordon Mount site down at Fort Polk and whatnot. So you got guys who died learning some of these lessons. So guys hopefully have got urban warfare training under their belt, and they're getting exposed to lessons that are gonna be painfully learned in urban combat.
Our streaming video subscribers of MakeReady.tv will now get exclusive access to the video versions of our podcasts. In addition, subscribers will have access to our episodes before they air on iTunes or any other free platform. Be sure to visit MakeReady.tv and subscribe today to stream our exclusive content to any device, anywhere, anytime. I'd like to give a shout out to one of our key sponsors, Walther Arms. We've had the pleasure of working with the folks at Walther on numerous projects. They've been a supporter of ours, and we love what they make. Heck, we've even been out to their factory in Ulm, Germany, and had a chance to look, behind the curtain and see what they have in the works, and gotta admit, pretty impressed. So, thanks to the folks at Walther, we have a discount code for you. Looking for some clothing? Save 20% off. Use the code MAKEREADY during checkout. So now, what other time do you remember that was pivotal? I mean, obviously besides 9/11 happening, what other battle that either you were involved in or have information on that you think would have been pivotal?
Honestly, the evolution of training, training changed after Panama because you had a lot of guys get combat and whatnot, but training really changed after Somalia. I would have to say that when you looked at how training was conducted in the military and special operations, even in Delta, but in the military and special operations, after Somalia, I'm sure till to now, it really changed. That was the watershed moment in training. Because now you had, special operations running urban training courses. You had different equipment, night fighting equipment that was seeing much wider dispersion, in not only SF, but in Rangers. You just had a big, giant ripple effect. So you'd have to say, a lot of guys died in the third and the fourth, and it was tragic, but there were some serious lessons learned out of that. And then also you guys have survived, and there's been lessons learned and stuff that's been carried forward that has had a big impact. That would definitely be one. And honestly, of the recent conflicts I can think of, or recent combat, that would be the one more than any, would be Somalia. It would be the one that had the greatest impact in terms of the lessons learned and then the training that was carried forward out of that.
So
more so than Panama, certainly Desert Storm, and all that stuff. But that was the one. That was the one that you would. I mean, there was a lot of lessons learned out of Vietnam, but the problem there is, you got in that post-Vietnam military, which was really drawn down, and a lot of that stuff, even though there was a lot of lessons learned, a lot of it didn't get carried forward like it probably should have.
right.
You know what I mean? There was some people that did carry it forward, Vietnam vets and special ops, but Somalia was the one. That was really the one that had.
Well, even with Vietnam, that was the first time we were really implementing helicopters and the Hueys. But then we also had the little birds then. So to a lesser degree, but we had
more
them
reconnaissance and whatnot.
So then you fast forward to 9/11. It's almost safe to say that when we look at post 9/11, those hard lessons learned through Somalia is what helped forge our soldiers to be able to
without a
handle
doubt.
things better.
You got equipment. Just look at what guys had equipment-wise and uniforms and whatnot rolling into Somalia, and then look at what they had when they rolled in after 9/11.
Right.
Huge difference.
Right.
Not quite a decade later, but you're talking about a big difference in equipment, uniforms, weapons, big time. Yeah, absolutely.
Now, what year did you get out?
03. I graduated. Yeah. Yeah, graduated. Retired in December of 03.
Or was it paroled?
Yeah, paroled. Yeah, paroled. December of 03.
Okay.
Yep.
So
20 years, 9 months.
Oh my God. Yeah. That was a long time. I remember when I first met you, we were doing IDPA at the Winter Nationals at Smith & Wesson. They don't even have that anymore.
They don't? They even do the match?
Then they stopped them. They stopped the Winter Nationals. I think they Smith & Wesson backed out of doing it. I don't know if they call it that now, but I remember back then we had our squad, our squad. You were on a different squad, and I remember that was the first time I met you. Then and fast forward a few years later, we were doing clothing together. Oh my God, who'd ever think two guys were doing fashion? But it wasn't really fashion. I mean, hell, back then there was nothing out there. There was 511, the Royal Robins, and I remember that I would get pairs of pants from Royal Robins at the time, and they didn't have shorts at the time, so my mom would actually make shorts for us. And then the pockets on the side, one would be higher than the other, and she'd rag on those pants. And she'd go, "These are garbage. Where'd you buy them? What did you pay for these?" And I ain't saying. So yeah, they were shit. Then we started with the Woolrich Elite Series. You were one of our beta testers. I remember. Oh my God, it was funny. The feedback I would get from you, and it was.
Ken had it.
Ken Hackenthorn had it. We had Pat Rogers, you, Clint Smith, Bob Young over at Gunsight, Dean Caputo out in California. My God, we had I think it was 10 or 11 beta testers that were, all the feedback from everybody came together to make a line of clothing. And then afterwards, the EOTAC line, part of the Freedom Group, it ain't the Freedom Group anymore. It's Remington, whatever, Outdoors. But we took all your feedback and everyone else's feedback and then did a Gen 2 version of the clothing. Then a few years later, I start the video production company. I step away from clothing, thank God. Garment trade was bad.
Is it still bad?
It's gotten worse.
Wow.
Because when I was in it, when I first got in it, there was only one company out there. We all wore 511s. Our sneakers or shoes are Adidas GSG9s. Wilderness belt, and whoever made a Shoot Me Now vest, the tactical vest. Then we did a line of shirts and pants, and then Proper stepped in, and True Spec stepped in. And then we were the first ones to do covert, discreet carry clothing. It was because of Dean Caputo that we did the mechanic shirt. We did a Cuban Guayabera shirt. We started going discreet, and then all of a sudden I'm at SHOT, and 511 has a whole line of
discreet stuff.
Yeah. I'll never forget when Costa came up to me, he says, "Oh, you're the copycat company." I'm like, "Dude, you didn't invent clothing. I'm sorry." It didn't work that way. But then fast forward, you want to get stuff made in the USA, but everyone's a cheap bastard. So Cry, they can get away with what they charge. People have always paid for what they get, or what they charge for Cry. But problem I always used to see was retail guys wouldn't want to spend more than $40 for a pair of pants.
Yeah.
And if I was going to make them in the States, those pants would be $80.
Yep.
And people didn't want to pay that. Then China, Thailand, all these places, they started jacking up the prices.
You know what's interesting is now with this COVID-19, it'll be interesting to see what kind of effect that has on Made in the USA moving forward.
Absolutely. The clothing side.
Yeah.
Granted, a lot of stuff is made overseas. But if you ever wonder how jaded or how the scale is off on clothing, look at the tags on your pants and shirts, and you'll find Vietnam. Not that long ago, having made in Vietnam on your clothing will get you an ass beating.
Oh yeah, big time.
It wasn't that long ago. So now you have made in Macau, Vietnam, Thailand, China, Hong Kong. I mean, every now and then some European place, but it's too expensive in Europe.
Yeah.
So when I was doing the stuff with Woolrich, it was common to see the same shirt in one color from Macau and another color from Thailand. Never made sense to me. But you're right. Today, this ought to be a wake-up call for Americans.
Yes.
To say, fuck this. Let's make this stuff in the States.
I remember being in Australia and training with the Australian SAS years ago when I was in the Army. When we were in Delta, we went over and trained. And it was like everything you saw, hats, everything was made in Australia. Everything. I was like blown away by that. Stuff that you would never see made in the USA on, here. I mean, just the smallest stuff made in Australia. And I was like, wow. And you're talking about a country the size of the United States with a tiny fraction of the population.
Sure.
And they had, all the stuff was made in Australia. And I went,
Safe to say, national pride.
Yeah. And there's something to be said for that. I remember now I look back and go, that kind of made an impression on me.
I'm hoping that now people are going to see, even now with the masks for the COVID-19, where you're supposed to be out there wearing a mask, not necessarily a full respirator, but a mask. And they're being made in China. And now people are like, well, wait a minute,
This is where this virus came from.
Yeah. So I think people are going to start, at least I hope, they're going to start reevaluating where they get their stuff from and decide, I want to spend that extra $15. I'll get it from the U.S.
Yep.
Because it was the U.S. manufacturers that got hammered by this.
Yep.
Everyone being shut down. I mean, now look at us in the gun industry. Talk to folks at Kimber. Well, they shut down New York, so now they're not making guns.
Oh yeah.
Okay. FN, thank God, they're still doing stuff here in South Carolina, but other manufacturers had to shut down because they couldn't get parts. So all of a sudden, those screws that you can't get for your grips or whatever it happens to be.
Oh yeah, the smallest part.
Yeah.
That's the holdup.
So it's going to be interesting to see the dynamic now when the industry comes back and now the gun buying craziness. Oh my God.
Oh, it's unbelievable.
The month of March, record sales.
Yeah.
I mean, like ever.
Yeah. In the history of the firearms industry, never. There's been more guns sold in March than any month in history.
I mean, we thought Obama was great for our industry.
This China virus thing, COVID-19, man, boy, it just turned everything upside down. I mean, unbelievable. You had untold thousands of new gun owners. People that a couple months ago would have never owned a gun now are buying them, ammo. It's wild.
Now, what that's going to do is it's going to take and put a little bit of a good strain on the training community because, my God, we've never had that many new gun owners.
Oh, yeah, and right.
And they don't know how to use them.
Yep.
So, and something you and I were talking about earlier, and you're spot on. We as gun industry folks, you a trainer, me not a trainer, but we as gun industry folks have to welcome in these new gun owners.
Yep.
And make sure that we don't talk down to them.
Absolutely.
And they get welcome into the fold, so to speak.
Yep.
And get reminded, learn how to shoot this thing.
Learn how to shoot it. And now you understand, I'm hoping you understand now why we're so adamant about this thing called the Second Amendment.
Yes.
And now we hope that, you understand where we're coming from, and you need to be safe, and you need to learn how to use this thing safely. But yeah, it's time now to be the ambassador, to be the brand ambassador, to be the Second Amendment ambassador.
Yeah, especially now when you have each state trying to say, well, look, let's suspend it for now. well, wait, who gave you the authority?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, it's one thing if you want to close a liquor store, but you're not going to shut down the Second Amendment just because.
Bingo.
You know, so, we're in interesting times now.
Big time.
We don't know what the future gives us.
We don't have any idea.
No. And now they're talking about how they're supposed to be bringing back, or not bringing back, but there'll be this new wave sometime around November or into the winter of the COVID coming back.
Yeah.
So.
We'll see. We'll see.
I mean, it could be the new normal for us. I hope not.
Yeah. We'll see. I think they're all guessing right now.
Yeah. So now.
Yeah.
What is LAV going to be doing moving forward?
Well, classes will start back up here. I got a class done in Texas the end of May.
Okay.
So we're gonna start easing back into the classes. Got books, Vickers Guide, coffee table books. Our AR-15 Volume 1 has been sold out for quite a while. It's being redone into a second edition, and it's gonna be, announced shortly, and then for pre-sale, and then it'll be shipping later this year.
Very cool.
So we got more books coming, things along those lines. Still always looking at parts and accessories that make sense for Glocks, SIGs, HK, stuff that makes sense to bring to the table. Just not another gadget.
Right.
Something that actually has value. It may not be something everybody wants to buy. Yeah, I mean, not my thing, but I understand why that's what we're looking for.
Makes sense.
Always looking for something like that.
So now, when are you going to do the definitive box set of all your books?
Yeah, people ask about that.
Dude.
All the time.
People will pay for that.
Yeah, the box set. Well, one, they got to all be in stock.
And be one hell of a damn box.
Yeah, it would be huge. And then, because right now the AR-15's out and 1911 is sold out, I want to say. It's for the second
how many
time.
books do you have total now?
Now 7.
7. Dude. That's a lot of books.
7. Yeah. 7 titles.
Okay, so, all right, so here we are. 7. So you have another one in the works now.
Well, yes, we've got a SIG book that's in the works for this holiday. SIG Volume 1 is in the books, in the works for this holiday season, with AR-15 Volume 1 second edition, a reprint greatly enhanced second edition, will be out a little bit later this year. So okay. That's one of the 7. It's just out of print right now.
I'm going to throw the gauntlet down and put the challenge out there. When you get to 10.
The 10 book.
10, the 10 box set. Yes, autographed, limited edition.
Box set of 10.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Dude.
I know.
There'll be one heavy box, dude.
You got to autograph each one, too.
Yeah, because those books are not light.
It doesn't come in a cardboard box. It comes in a nice finished wood box. Yeah. Come on, like cherry.
Yeah, cherry.
Or walnut, Come on.
Yeah.
I think we could do this.
Yeah. Never say never, man. That's for sure.
Look, folks, here's what you need to do. You need to email Larry.
Mm-hmm.
You need to call Larry in his cell. We'll give you his cell phone, his personal cell phone.
Yeah.
You need to call Larry and say, I want the 10 book set.
10 book set, yeah.
And I want it autographed. And I want each book autographed. And say, and can you also autograph?
Personalize them.
Personalize each one. Yeah. Well, at least one little letter. Cover
one
letter.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. You crazy bastard. You bought all 10.
You bought all 10.
Well, look, dude, it was good having a chance to sit down with you.
Thank you.
We have a lot of stuff in the works in the future, and we just finished filming some stuff here. And as always, good to see you.
Good to see you. I appreciate it, brother.
Glad to have you here. Take care, folks. For more on the Make Ready videos from Panteo, head over to makeready.tv, panteo.com. Subscribe, check out our content. There's a lot there. When you get a chance, go to Amazon.com or any other place you'd like to get your books from and check out 6 Minutes to Freedom, written by Kurt Muse and John Gilstrap. Definitely worth a read. Probably something you didn't know about. Probably something you didn't know about until you listened or watched this podcast.
Panteo.